My husband asked to borrow my sister for one night to play his wife at his high school reunion, and he said it so casually, like he was asking me to pass the salt. What I didn't know then was that this harmless little lie was hiding a 10-year deception, secret I love you texts, and a plan to replace me after the reunion. If he wanted a show, though, I decided to give him a premiere he would never forget. My name's Carissa, 34 years old, female, and I swear to God I can still taste the cold garlic on my tongue from that night, because that's the kind of stupid detail your brain decides to preserve when your life cracks open. We were eating pasta at our kitchen island, not a table, an island, because Damen, 34 years old, male, my husband, doesn't like formal dining, which is hilarious because he also doesn't like formal employment. I'd been at the firm for 12 hours. I'd come home with my shoulders buzzing like live wires, kicked off heels that cost more than his last paycheck, and cooked anyway because if I didn't, we'd be eating cereal again. Damen had been home since 3. He twirled spaghetti like a man with no sins and said, casual as a weather report, "So my 10-year reunion is next month and I need Nikki to come with me." I kept chewing because my brain refused to accept the sentence, like it was an audio glitch. "Nikki," I said finally. "My sister Nikki?" Nikki, 29 years old, female. My baby sister, my shadow and my bruise, pretty in that effortless way that made strangers smile at her like she was a gift, unemployed by choice for 2 years because she was finding herself, with my money, my rent payments on auto transfer, my name on her car insurance, my card paying for her highlights every 6 weeks because roots make me feel ugly. I swallowed and the pasta went down like wet cement. "Why would Nikki be coming to your reunion?" Damen didn't even look up from his phone. "Because I need her there." That was it. That was the explanation. Like, obviously. I set my fork down. Very carefully. My hands were steady, but I could feel this thin, icy thread tightening behind my ribs. "Why do you need my sister at your high school reunion instead of your actual wife?" He sighed and finally looked at me with that expression he saved for when I was about to be difficult. "Because I told everyone I married her." My face went numb. "You... what?" "Back when we first started dating," he said, like we were discussing a funny misunderstanding. "My buddies met her at that barbecue. They assumed she was my girlfriend. I never corrected them." I stared until my eyes started to sting. I was waiting for the laugh, the wink, the gotcha. Nothing. "You told your friends you married my sister," I repeated slowly, like if I said it carefully enough it might become less insane. "It's not a big deal," he said, picking his fork back up. "It was easier than explaining." "Explaining what?" My voice came out too calm, too lawyer, like I was cross-examining a witness instead of my husband. He rolled his eyes. "Babe, they're shallow. They remember Nikki being hot, and they've spent 10 years thinking I locked that down. I can't show up with someone different and explain that actually I married the other one." The other one. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. The other one. Like I was a substitute teacher filling in for the real wife. Like I wasn't the one who paid the mortgage, bought the cars, carried the health insurance, scheduled the appointments, remembered his mother's birthday, and held his hand through his rough patches that never ended. "So, your solution," I said, and my throat felt tight, "is to bring my sister as your fake wife, and I'm supposed to be okay with that." Damen reached across and squeezed my hand like he was soothing a child. "It's one night. Nobody will ever know. These people don't matter. I'll make it up to you. Nice dinner after, wherever you want." That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not snapped, not exploded, just slid, like a lock clicking, because he truly believed that was enough. That I'd accept humiliation if he bribed me with a meal. And then he said the part that made my stomach turn. "Nikki already said yes." I pulled my hand back. "You already asked her?" He shrugged. "Logistics." I stared at him, and all I could think was, my sister didn't even call me. Not once. Not to ask if I was okay. Not to check if it was weird. Not to say, "Hey, this feels wrong." Just yes. Excited yes. Damen chewed like a man who'd just ordered extra breadsticks. "Don't be upset. Nikki said you should be flattered she's willing to help. She's doing this for us. For you, really." "For me." I laughed once, sharp and ugly, and Damen's eyes narrowed like my reaction was the problem. That night, after he fell asleep with his phone glowing on his chest, I lay awake staring at the ceiling fan turning lazy circles, and I realized something that made my skin prickle. They weren't asking for permission. They were informing me of my place, and if I let this happen, if I swallowed it like everything else, I'd spend the rest of my life being the other one in my own marriage. So I texted Nikki, "What time are you coming over tomorrow to practice?" 3 dots appeared immediately. "OMG, yay. 6? She didn't even hesitate. I stared at her reply until my eyes blurred, and in the reflection of my dark phone screen I looked like someone I didn't recognize, someone finally getting tired. Nikki showed up the next evening at exactly 6. Of course she did. She breezed into my house like she owned the place. Because technically, financially, she kind of did. I'd paid for half the furniture she complimented. The throw pillows, the rug. The stupid decorative bowl she once said made the living room feel more grown up. She was wearing jeans and that tight green top that made her eyes look brighter. The one she'd worn to my birthday dinner last year when 3 different men forgot I was even at the table. "Hey sis," she chirped, leaning in to air kiss my cheek. Her perfume hit me first, sweet and floral and nauseatingly familiar. Daman, 34, male, my husband, was already in the living room, sitting on the couch like he was waiting for a date. "Ready?" he asked her. Not us. Not everyone. Her. I sat in the armchair across from them, legs crossed, hands folded neatly in my lap like I was observing a client meeting. "I figured I could help," I said evenly. "Make sure your story sounds believable." Neither of them flinched. "Sure, babe," Daman said absently, already turned toward Nikki. Babe. He'd used that word so easily, like it didn't burn on the way out. "Okay," Nikki said, tucking her hair behind her ear and smiling at him. "So how did we meet?" "We." Daman leaned forward, elbows on his knees, focused. "At Matt's birthday party. I saw you across the room and knew I had to talk to you." My stomach dropped. That was how we met. Me and Daman. 10 years ago. I was by the window, pretending not to hate crowded rooms. He'd told me I looked like I was plotting an escape. I'd laughed. We talked for 3 hours. I opened my mouth. "That's our story." Daman didn't even hesitate. "Exactly. I know it by heart." I stared at him. "You're going to use the story of how you met your wife to pretend you married someone else?" He shrugged. "It's practical." I turned to Nikki, 29, female, my sister. "You're okay with that? Using the night I told you about 100 times like it happened to you?" She examined her nails. "It's not like you own a story, Carissa." Carissa. She only used my full name when she was annoyed, or when she was distancing herself. Daman continued like I hadn't spoken. "Then I texted you the next day? And I made you wait 3 days before coffee." Nikki chimed in with a giggle. Exactly what I had done. My throat tightened. "I told you that in confidence." Daman's head snapped toward me, irritation flashing. "Why are you making this dramatic?" "Because you're rewriting my life in front of me," I thought. "Because you're letting my sister rehearse being me." But I didn't scream. Not yet. "Okay," I said instead. "What about the proposal?" Without missing a beat, Daman said, "Rooftop restaurant downtown. I had the ring in my pocket all night." My fingers dug into the armrest. "That's my proposal," I whispered. "Ours," he corrected sharply. Nikki leaned closer to him. "And the waiter brought champagne after I said yes, right?" I had cried so hard that night my mascara streaked down my cheeks. I'd called Mom from the bathroom because I couldn't stop smiling. Now my sister was nodding like she remembered it. Something in my chest hollowed out. At one point, I tried correcting a detail about our first anniversary trip. French restaurant, not Italian. Daman cut me off mid-sentence. "Oh, here we go," he mocked in a high, whiny voice. "Actually, Daman, that's not exactly right." Nikki laughed. They laughed at me. In my house. I felt heat rise up my neck, but I stayed seated. I wanted to see how far they'd go. I wanted to know if I was crazy or if this was as ugly as it felt. An hour in, Nikki stood up to grab water from the kitchen. Daman followed her. I stayed seated, staring at our wedding photo above the fireplace. Me in white, him smiling. Nikki behind us in a pale blue bridesmaid dress. I heard her laugh, soft, low, not her usual loud one. A different laugh. I stood quietly and walked toward the hallway. From the corner, I saw it. Daman's hand on Nikki's cheek, his thumb brushing along her jawline, her leaning into it. It wasn't practice, it wasn't awkward, it was instinct. Their faces were inches apart. My heart didn't race. It just went cold. I stepped forward deliberately so my heels clicked on the hardwood. They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. "It's not what it looks like," Daman blurted immediately. "We were just practicing," Nikki added too fast. "In case people expect us to be affectionate," Daman said. Affectionate. I looked at the space between them, the exact distance of almost kiss. "Right," I said slowly. "Rehearsal." I walked back into the living room and sat down again. And this time, I wasn't observing. I was calculating. Because I'd just seen the truth without anyone saying it. And neither of them had the courage to admit it. That was fine. I didn't need their confession. I needed leverage. I didn't confront them right away. That's the part that still surprises me. Old me would have swallowed it. Smiled. Pretended I misread the body language. But this wasn't denial. This was strategy. I wanted to see how far the lie went when they thought I believed it. "Nikki," 29 my sister, left around 8. She hugged Damen at the door. Not a quick, polite hug. It lingered. Her fingers pressed into his back like she didn't want to let go. I stood in the kitchen, arms folded, watching through the reflection in the microwave door. When she finally stepped outside, Damen closed the door slowly and exhaled like he'd just finished something exhausting. I didn't speak until her car pulled away. "How long?" I asked. He didn't look at me. "How long? What? How long has this been going on?" He laughed, but it sounded thin. "Going on? You're still on that? We already explained." "Don't," I said quietly. That made him look up. "Don't gaslight me in my own house." His jaw tightened. "You're being paranoid." "Am I?" I stepped closer. "Because I just watched you almost kiss my sister in our hallway." His face shifted. Not guilt, annoyance. "We were practicing," he snapped. "You wanted us to look convincing, remember?" "Convincing," I repeated. He threw his hands up. "What do you want me to say? That I'm sleeping with Nikki? Is that what you need so you can justify this meltdown?" The word meltdown hit like a slap. "Are you?" I asked. Silence. 3 seconds. That's how long he held my stare before looking away. He didn't say no. Instead, he pivoted. "You know what your problem is? You make everything about control. You can't stand not being the center of every situation." That was new. I blinked. "This isn't about control. It's about my husband touching my sister like she belongs to him." He stepped closer, voice lowering. "Maybe if you weren't constantly reminding me how much you pay for everything, I wouldn't need someone who actually makes me feel appreciated." There it was. Appreciated. "You mean someone who doesn't ask you to grow up?" I said. His nostrils flared. "You think you're so much better than everyone because you make more money. I think I deserve respect." "You get respect," he shouted, and his voice echoed against the kitchen tile. "You get the house, the career, the image. What do I get?" I stared at him. "You get a wife who built a life for you," I said slowly. "You get someone who believed in you when your own brother offered you jobs you were too insecure to take." The mention of Jackson hit. Damen's face hardened instantly. "Don't bring Jackson into this." "Why not?" I shot back. "Because he reminds you of everything you're not?" Before I could react, his hand slammed against the counter beside my head. Hard. The granite cracked slightly under the impact. Not shattered, but cracked. The sound echoed through the house. We both looked at it. The tiny fracture line, like a hairline break in bone. "You're pushing me," he said through clenched teeth. My heart pounded, but I didn't step back. "Then maybe you should feel pushed." His eyes flickered with something unstable, something I hadn't seen before. He grabbed his phone off the counter and stormed out of the kitchen. 10 minutes later, I heard his voice in the backyard, low, urgent. "Nikki, she's losing it." "No, she doesn't know. I handled it." My blood ran cold. He wasn't reassuring me. He was reassuring her. I walked upstairs quietly and opened his laptop. He'd never changed the password, because he never thought I'd look. The messages weren't subtle. Late-night texts, inside jokes, photos I'd never seen. One message from 2 weeks ago made my vision blur. Damen. "After the reunion, everything changes." "Nikki. Promise?" "Damen. I love you." I stopped breathing for a second. There it was. Proof. Not suspicion, not rehearsal, a plan. After the reunion, everything changes. He wasn't just pretending she was his wife for one night. He was preparing to replace me. My hand trembled, but my mind felt calm, clear, cold. He thought I was weak. He thought I'd cry, beg, fight for him. Instead, I took screenshots, every message, every confession. And then I did something that surprised even me. I transferred the automatic rent payment to Nikki's account and canceled it, effective immediately. If they were planning a future together, they could start funding it themselves. Downstairs, I heard the back door slam. Damen's footsteps pounded up the stairs. "Did you touch my laptop?" he barked from the hallway. I closed it gently. "Yes." His face was flushed, eyes wild. "You invaded my privacy." I stood up slowly. "You invaded my marriage." His hand flew toward the dresser, and he swept everything off it in one violent motion. My jewelry box shattered on the floor. The wedding photo frame hit the wall and cracked down the middle, glass everywhere. He was breathing hard. "You have no idea what you've done," he said. I looked at the broken wedding photo at my feet. "You're right," I whispered. "I'm just getting started." The crack in the wedding photo glass stayed on the floor all night. I didn't clean it up. I stepped over it on purpose. Damen, 34 my husband, slept downstairs after his little dresser-smashing performance, claiming he needed space. What he really needed was distance. From me, from proof, from accountability. I heard him pacing until almost 2 a.m., heard cabinet doors slam, heard a glass shatter in the sink. He wanted noise. He wanted me scared. Instead, I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling and planning. By morning, Nikki, 29, my sister, was blowing up my phone. Why did my rent bounce? You can't just do that. My landlord called me. I didn't answer. An hour later, she showed up at my door. She wasn't crying, she was furious. She pounded on the front door so hard the wreath fell off. When I opened it, she pushed past me into the house like she had every right. You canceled my rent? She demanded. Yes. You can't just ruin my life because you're insecure. I actually laughed at that. It surprised both of us. Insecure? I said softly. About what exactly? She flinched, but only for a second. Then her face hardened. He loves me, she said. The words were steady, practiced. My chest didn't cave in like she expected. I saw the messages, I replied. Her face drained of color. You went through his laptop? He left it open, I said. Sloppy. Her breathing got fast, angry. You had no right. I had every right. I'm his wife. She stepped closer to me, eyes blazing. Not for long. There it was, not denial, not apology, a declaration. Behind her, I heard movement. Daman had come upstairs. What the hell is going on? He snapped. Your sister ruined my rent, Nikki yelled, turning on him instantly. You said she wouldn't do this. He froze. You said. I watched the realization hit him that she'd just exposed their private conversations in front of me. You promised, Nikki continued, voice rising. You said after the reunion everything would change. You said you loved me. The room went silent. Daman's eyes darted to me. I didn't blink. You said that? I asked quietly. Carissa, he started. Did you say you loved her? His mouth opened, closed. Nikki turned toward him, desperation leaking into her voice. Tell her you meant it. He ran a hand through his hair, his nervous tell. Nikki, this isn't the time. Her face twisted. Oh my God, she whispered. You're doing it again. Doing what? He snapped. Choosing her because she pays for everything. And then, because emotional chaos apparently wasn't enough, she grabbed the framed family photo off the hallway table and hurled it at the wall. It exploded into glass. I didn't even flinch. Daman grabbed her wrists. Stop! She started crying, loud, gasping sobs. You said you were leaving her. I felt something click into place inside me. He hadn't just been planning to replace me, he'd been promising it. I never said when, he shot back, panicked now. You're rushing this. Rushing. As if betrayal had a proper timeline. Nikki yanked free of him and turned on me like I'd orchestrated all of it. You think you won? She spat. You think canceling my rent makes you powerful? He doesn't love you. He's with you because you're safe. Safe? I repeated calmly. Predictable. Stable. Boring. Daman didn't correct her. He just stood there breathing hard, trapped between us. And in that moment, watching the two of them unravel in my hallway, I realized something important. They weren't masterminds. They were children playing house with money that wasn't theirs. And I held the keys. Okay, I said quietly. They both looked at me. I'm done arguing. Daman blinked. What does that mean? It means, I said, walking past them toward the stairs, you can take her to your reunion. Nikki's crying stopped instantly. Daman looked confused, suspicious. You're allowing it? I turned at the top of the stairs and met his eyes. Yes. Because the hook had set. They thought I'd surrendered. They thought they'd won. What they didn't understand yet was that I'd just decided to attend that reunion too, and when I walked in, it wouldn't be as the other one. It would be as the reckoning. I let them believe I'd folded. That's the part I'm almost proud of. After Nikki's meltdown and the shattered picture frame and her screaming that Daman had promised to leave me, I didn't rage. I didn't throw anything back. I just went upstairs and closed the bedroom door like a woman who was tired. Downstairs, I heard them whisper fighting. You said you'd handle her. She's overreacting. You said after the reunion, lower your voice. I lay on the bed staring at the crack in the ceiling paint and realized something terrifyingly clear. They thought the reunion was their turning point. They thought it was the night he'd publicly choose her. They were rehearsing more than stories. They were rehearsing my replacement. So I made a call, not to a therapist, not to a friend, to a lawyer. I didn't cry in that office. I didn't tell the whole story dramatically. I just laid out facts. 10-year marriage, financial dependency, proof of infidelity, property in my name. The lawyer nodded like she'd seen this exact script before. Do you want to confront him privately? She asked, or make a statement. I thought about the wedding photo in shards on my hallway floor. I want a statement, I said. Divorce papers drafted within a week. Meanwhile, at home, things escalated. Damin started acting volatile, not remorseful, volatile. He'd scroll through my phone if I left it on the counter. He'd question where I was going, even if it was work. One night I came home to find my closet half emptied, dresses thrown across the floor. "What are you doing?" I demanded. He stood there, breathing hard. "You're dressing different." "I've always owned these clothes." "You didn't wear them. So? So who are you trying to impress?" The irony nearly made me laugh. "Nobody," I said evenly. "Maybe I'm just remembering who I was before you convinced me to shrink." That set him off. He grabbed the framed wedding photo, already cracked, and smashed it fully against the wall. Glass rained down like cheap confetti. "You're trying to humiliate me," he snarled. "No," I replied quietly. "You did that yourself." He lunged forward and grabbed my wrist, hard. For a split second I saw something unhinged in his eyes. "Don't make me the villain," he hissed. I didn't pull away. I just screamed, one sharp, deliberate scream. He dropped my arm instantly. He wasn't afraid of hurting me. He was afraid of witnesses. Good to know. The next morning, Nikki posted a selfie on Instagram. Green dress, the reunion dress. Caption, "Big night coming." I stared at it while sipping my coffee. She wanted public, so I gave her public. I texted Jackson, 36, male, Damin's older brother. "Are you free Friday night?" 3 dots. "Depends." "Why?" "I'm attending a reunion." His reply came fast. "With or without my brother?" "With you." There was a long pause. Then, "I'm in." That was the hook, because Jackson wasn't just any date, he was everything Damin resented. Successful, stable, unimpressed by chaos. And if I walked into that reunion on Jackson's arm, Damin wouldn't just feel exposed, he'd feel replaced. That week, the house felt like a pressure cooker. Nikki kept coming over when I was at work, except I wasn't always at work. Twice I pulled into the driveway and saw her car parked 2 streets down, sneaking. One afternoon I walked in quietly and heard them arguing in the kitchen. "You said you loved me." "I do. But this has to be smart." "She's going to find out." "She won't do anything." That made me smile. Because I already had. The day before the reunion, I laid the divorce papers on my dresser, neatly stacked, envelope sealed, and for the first time since this all started, I felt calm, not furious, not heartbroken, strategic. They thought Friday was their beginning. They had no idea it was going to be their ending. Friday came fast, too fast. The house was silent all afternoon, but it wasn't peaceful. It felt like the quiet before a tornado siren. Damin barely looked at me all day. He kept checking his phone, pacing between rooms, adjusting his tie in the hallway mirror like he was about to audition for a better life. Nikki arrived at 5. I heard her laugh before I saw her. That same soft, secret laugh she used in the kitchen the night I caught them. She walked in wearing the green dress. The one from Instagram. The one he'd told her to wear. Damin froze when he saw her. For a second, they just stared at each other like they were about to step onto a stage. And I was the audience. "You ready?" she asked him softly. He nodded. Neither of them acknowledged me standing in the doorway. Not even a goodbye. They walked past me together. Damin didn't touch her in front of me, but their shoulders brushed. Intimate. Familiar. At the door, he hesitated like he might say something. He didn't. They left. I waited exactly 30 minutes. Then I went upstairs. Black dress, hair done, red lipstick I hadn't worn in years because Damin once said it was too aggressive. I wanted aggressive. The envelope with the divorce papers felt heavier than it should have in my clutch. At 7 sharp, Jackson pulled into the driveway. He stepped out in a charcoal suit that fit like it was tailored for war. "You okay?" he asked when I opened the door. "Better than okay," I said. The reunion was at a downtown hotel ballroom. I could see the glow of chandeliers through the glass doors as we walked in together. Jackson's hand rested lightly on the small of my back. Not possessive. Steady. When we entered, I spotted them almost immediately. Damin in the suit I bought him for our anniversary. Nikki on his arm, smiling too big, playing the role they'd rehearsed in my living room. He was mid-laugh when he saw me. Everything drained from his face. Carissa. My name cracked out of him like a dropped plate. The room started to quiet as people noticed the shift. I smiled. "Hi, honey," I said brightly. "Miss me?" Nikki's hand slipped from his arm. "What are you doing here?" Damin hissed. "I thought I'd meet your friends. You've been married 10 years, right? Seems rude not to show up eventually." A tall guy nearby frowned. "Wait, I thought Nikki was your wife." I turned slowly toward him. "That's funny," I said sweetly. "Because Nikki is my sister." The air shifted. Phones started coming out. You could feel it. Damin grabbed my arm. "Stop." I pulled free. "No, I'm done stopping." I turned my phone outward and opened the wedding album. "That's our wedding," I said clearly, holding up the screen. 10 years ago, me and Daman, Nikki was my bridesmaid. Gasps, whispers. Nikki stepped forward, voice shaking. "Carissa, you're being dramatic." "Oh?" I tilted my head. "Should we read the messages too?" Daman went pale. Jackson stepped closer beside me but didn't speak. I scrolled. "I love you," I read aloud from the screen. "After the reunion, everything changes." The room went dead silent. Nikki looked at Daman desperately. "Tell them," she whispered. "Tell them you love me." He couldn't. He just stood there sweating under the chandelier light. "Tell them," she screamed now, losing composure.